can see us together.
This for everybody. This for everybody. No matter what religion, what race, you know, kids, grown, it's hard to see the future. There's so much hate in the world. The only way we're gonna fix it is together. We can do it, but we gotta be together. And it was all a dream, and that's how it seemed. As we look and seek and search for the same things, don't mean to the mean when seen. It don't matter what you look like if you're a fiend. See, hope stands for help our people expand. What color don't matter. Woman and man, they say one bad apple could spoil a whole bunch of bad apples. Couldn't spoil my lunch. Then came Katrina to expose the truth. The children are our future. We don't care about the youth, cause if we did, we would give more love to the kids. And maybe the kids don't do bids. Born don't open up a can of worms. I'm not, I got a can to learn. Born and raised in the projects, out learning true life in the process. God bless the child that got its own, can't get it cause the color of skin, and that's wrong. Caucasians, Asians, if you wonder, Arab and Jewish, still my brother. Every morning, God with me, I'm gonna take that stance, cause I know together we can. And every morning, God with me, I'm gonna take that stance, cause I know together we can, together we can.
Together, and you and me, together, and we should be together, and I can see us together. Together, in this world together, and we can be together, and I can see us together. It ain't no hiding team. On my brother I lean. Is you with it or not? Ain't no in between. See, it's all for one for all. I'll be there to pick you up when and if you fall. See, I need you and you need me, and that's the definition of we. We are pushing on the rock, but if we push on the same side, then we can't be stopped. I once knew a player did it all himself, all the way to NBA and didn't need no help. But what about the cat that let you in the gym? Without him, your chances is slim. What about your teammates? Please don't hate. Without them, you couldn't in one state. Mom, dad, teacher, preacher, best and girlfriend, they don't count either. Not think about them all and take them all away. And what would you be today? In order to get to what your dream is, you gotta understand what team is, and together we can. Together, and you and me, together, and we should be together, and I can see us together, in this world together, and we can be together, and I can see us together. Look what we face in the world as a human race. The whole world need to change the pace. Can we better this place? Case? Can the dream be real? How do the deaf and blind people really feel? Do appeal, understand due process. Don't be a fan, get in the game and that's progress. We can achieve as long as we believe. That's why we're still looking for the Loch Ness. You want to clone, ask God if it's right or wrong. If your life was on the gong show, but you get gone, I'm getting stopped cause my profile big, black and bald, don't mean that I'm so wild. The police are people too. They do crime, they throw the dealer in jail, but they do lines. The rich got it easy, keep getting tax breaks, but that's because the president fake. Oops, wait a minute, did I make a mistake? Leave it up for immediate debate. No kid left behind, but where the homeless at? Out in front of the White House, how true is that? Let's take care of A before we get to B. My country tis of thee. Let's take care of A before we get to B. My country tis of thee. Together we can. Together, and you and me together, and we should be together, and I can see us together, in this world together, and we can be together, and I can see us together. Look what we face in the world as a human race. It ain't no iron team. My brother Eileen. We can achieve as long as we believe. In order to get to what your dream is, you gotta understand what the team is.
Together we can.
Okay, together we can.
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 我们一起可以的。
Kwa pamoja tunaweza.
Together we can.
Thank you. Good evening. Welcome. Good evening to my beautiful Hot Pink Pride family. It is an absolute pleasure to be with you tonight. Tonight we are diving deep, okay, into the realm of spiritual wellness, exploring our inner selves and connecting with the divine energy that flows within each and every one of us. As we embark on this journey tonight, I'm welcoming my co host and my guest. I guess you would call him Mr. Calvin Mann, also known as the National Encourager. Thank you so much for joining me this evening, Calvin.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. So, tonight, we're doing a spiritual health checkup. Okay. Now, Calvin, I'm a little bit, all over the place tonight. Why don't you just start by telling us when and why is it necessary for us to take an inventory of our spiritual health?
Well, I mean, what's let's be clear that if you don't, right, you see what we look like,
Oh my gosh.
right? And so part of understanding your spiritual health, it don't just start with prayer and meditation. It's a
Right.
all day process.
Oh my God. Is it not?
It's recognizing the things that's against you, that's for you, and it's also recognizing the things that's good
Hmm.
versus the things that are bad. So it just helps us understand how we can make decisions better. It
Hmm.
brings a certain peace to us, you know, and,
Right.
for me, that's where everything begins.
Absolutely. So I just wanted to, my original goal here was to kind of have, a few of our friends or whatever pop in and, kind of do a kind of a little self check as far as where we are. The Bible says, let a man examine himself. Okay. And um, where does it, just for me personally, I'm going to just use this as my free session for today, Calvin. In the area of working, okay, when you're working, when you're building, when you're manifesting, when at some point do you kind of let go and let God? Because I think I'm at that place. I won't even say kind of, but I feel like I'm definitely when if I was to check myself, I am at a place of letting go and letting God. And that was like kind of the first thing I wanted to talk about, connecting to a higher power. Because when you kind of you you know a person like me, I'm a believer, okay? I'm a believer in the power of the Almighty God. At some point, I have to understand, I feel like understanding my connection with God and really putting my faith and belief in action when I'm kind of um evaluating fulfillment, like when do I take my hands off of it, because I know faith without works is dead, but I find myself being, kind of in a place of being a workaholic.
So, do you ever take your hands off? Maybe you put your hands down or to the side, but I don't know if you really ever get to take your hands off.
Hmm.
If it's purpose, you're always going to be in action.
Right.
And if it's just an ordinary, a regular, and not to make it sound trivial, but if it's a business
Hmm.
that's not purpose, it's the same thing, same principle. It's only one you're doing for the money, another one
Hmm.
you're doing because it won't allow you to rest. Right? Purpose is a
Right.
very powerful force,
That's it. Yeah.
and to get to a place where you let go and let God, it consistently. Sometimes it happens for a year. Sometimes it happens for 6 months,
Mhm.
right? But because you are always in the throes of obstacles and journeys and goals, you have to temper how you pull your hands back and allow
Mhm.
God to do His thing. And that means sometimes you're having a conversation. I've had several conversations like, "Come on, dude," you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, you got to come on through. You know what I mean? And
Ain't that sin?
right,
I mean, like really, because I feel you on that, Calvin, because that's kind of where I'm like in building this platform and in ministry and things like that, and I'm feeling like, okay, I got to get out here, I got to do this, that, and the other. Then dealing with things like, for instance, my most recent crisis. Okay, my TikTok channel had had over 34,000 subscribe or followers or whatever the case may be. And it came under attack. There were about 9 or 10 pages that were created to I don't and then some of my followers started reaching out to me telling me that they were people were reaching out to them trying to scam them and all that kind of thing, and then finally I guess the final straw was that it got took down, just completely took down, so I'm having to start that over. And I don't mind starting it over at right now. This happened almost a week ago, and of course I went through this whole death and grieving process about my following, but at the same time, Holy Spirit let me know you know, that it probably needed to come down and be rebuilt because, so, sometimes something can go viral for right or wrong reasons or whatever, yeah, I have to look at it, at least in a way that it wouldn't have happened if it wasn't meant to happen. But it also gives me a way to just rebuild the platform, and really shape it the way that I want it to be, um, as opposed to it just happening by, happenstance.
so
So, yeah, go ahead.
so spiritually in this conversation, you have to be consistent,
Mhm.
right?
I know it's all over the place, right?
Right, and so it's not that. It's just that for whatever that TikTok channel is for,
Mhm.
right? You have to be consistent. God will add the
Absolutely.
increase, right?
Mm,
Um,
exactly.
we, I look at my Instagram for Calvin Man. It's 1,200 people,
Mhm.
right? So, right. I look at my Encourage Me I'm Young Instagram. It's almost 12,000 people. Hasn't moved in a second.
Mhm.
Then I'll go over to Good Fathers Only. It's like 9,000 people on the Instagram. But it's not that these people necessarily support you,
Absolutely. You're absolutely right.
right? It's
That's what I've learned. One thing about it, it's definitely given me a lesson.
yeah. It's not that people support is such. It's such. We don't have the types of support that culturally we should have, right?
Right.
Because if we was just looking to support everything that was black, if we supported everything that was black, would black support everything that has contributed to black, right? So
Mhm.
then you have to question, is it just about that? God didn't give me a vision for division.
Mhm.
And as a godly people, the only people that practice division is the people who pretend that it's godly.
Come on now.
So when you see, all one anything, right, in this world, right now at this time, um, there's a certain amount of deception,
Oh my goodness. Yes.
corruption, and doubt. So the support that is for me shows his head, right? So I again helping um, Bernadette, right? She referred you, and to be honest with you, like I this is out of the goodness of my heart because I could be doing anything, right? But that's what
Yeah.
anybody says.
Mhm.
But I know supporting you ultimately is better for you. And so when people say or do things that they consider support, like there are a lot of people who tried, hey Cal, it's an unbelievable story, so and so and so and so. I want to help you, this, that, and the other. I'm gonna put this in, I'm gonna do this, right? They did all those things.
Mhm.
And I could really say some things about family. I could say some things about people. I could say some things about nephews. I can say some things about friends. I
Mhm.
could do all of that. It could all be negative. And what would that do to me spiritually? I would then be speaking those words into me spiritually.
Yes.
So instead of opening my mouth and letting those, I go with Proverbs 18:20, the fruit of my mouth. So I
Mhm.
rather bring that and be the difference maker, and I wrestle with that, right? There's some days, and this is facts. There's some days I've laid in the bed crying, right?
Mhm.
That this purpose was is too heavy,
Taxing. Mhm.
right? Because there are things that you can and cannot do. Is that part of disciplining me, or is that part of what I don't know, right? Uh,
That part.
that part.
Because it's obviously a lesson, in that. I mean, in building anything, then you do truly find out. That's what I was telling someone earlier, is that even out of so many followers, of 30 something thousand followers, only maybe 2 or 3,000 I feel like were authentic,
Right.
were genuine. I mean, that's less than 10%,
And that's how it
that.
goes.
Mhm.
That's how it goes, right? And so, 10%, you do more, then it turns into 15%, then you do more, it turns into 30%.
Mhm.
For me, I'm in one of the toughest areas there is,
Right.
working and the work that I do with boys and men.
Mhm.
Um, I would say I could do more work with men if men would want to work, right?
Yeah.
Um, I could do more for boys if we invested in boys. But culturally, I see things that speak otherwise. I see where the system has done things and conditioned us uh, apart. Not that I
Mhm.
can necessarily blame the system because I didn't participate. I'm just in a position of wisdom to see that this is what has happened.
Mhm.
And so for me, it's just not for me to act that way,
Right.
So where you are and what you're doing, right? I think that's where you just got to keep going.
And that's the thing about it. Keeping going and working, it's not a problem. I can learn anything. So, what I am finding, because you did mention purpose, so I know that it is within my purpose, right? Um, it's part of the meaning of why I'm here, why I, breathe air and all of that kind of thing. My values, my own values and goals, right? And so one thing that I'm learning in the rebuilding is um kind of, even though I'm pressing my way, I'm still rebuilding, I'm still building. Now I think it's more I think I'm learning what I need and what I don't need. Being grateful for what I have and okay with what I don't have. you know.
Okay. I mean, like, so, but my question is, being grateful is. I mean, we can be here all day. You should. There are a lot
Mhm.
of things you have to give. Um, you should be grateful for.
Mhm.
There are a lot of people you should be grateful for. Right?
Right.
There's this society likes to me. We
True.
we love to me, which creates a lot of me's.
Mhm.
And so when it comes to us and we have a different order, we're out of order,
Come on.
which is the way that the system, right, predicated, because everything else is in order, but 12 to 13% of the people. And the reason why 13 to 12% of the people is out of order is because they bought into the disorder
Mm. Okay.
as normal,
Mhm.
right? So you would see the things that you see, you would hear the things that you hear, because we are out of order. And the out of order is what is taking lives. So when we don't have the principles right
Mhm.
for family, for breeding, for culture, for praising, right, for understanding, when you don't have those things in the right order, anything is possible,
Mhm.
right? And so we don't even, this society has come to a place, since they divested in men in the 50s, we've come to a place now where everybody's in trouble. Is
Yeah.
as long as we are out of order,
Mhm.
it benefits the system because they're able to show your demise, the worst part of you.
Mhm.
So, one thing I heard that was powerful is that um, your culture is divine. Is how did it was put? It was like your culture is defined by the worst action it produces.
Okay.
Right. So this is what your culture is defined by. So this is what society. This is why society stereotypes the whole nine. This is why God can take His hands off. You're out of order.
Mhm.
So this you could have all these problems. Isn't it amazing that only right? You like, wow, is this just us? Well, yeah, they did a number on us. We say all the stuff, but then you go back and you look at the things that was created that kept the unification apart. So when we get into the space of understanding spiritually, when you become a spiritual being, leadership should be a thing that occurs, triggers, anoint you,
Mhm.
and especially if it's on purpose.
Right.
And purpose solve problems. Purpose is action. Purpose is your employment with God, right? Purpose is, these are the things that we, because you're out of order, you see how we go at each other. So once we start doing that, look how much further we're apart. And because the man and the woman is apart, look at how much damage can be done in between. So we could change laws. We could end affirmative action, right? Because y'all, we still this way. You're
Mhm.
not into this. You post every day. Right? We say things every day to the enemy that despises you about division. Then we say,
Mhm.
oh, yeah, that's like them. You're not solving the problem that way. So God is a problem solver.
Yes. Yes, he is. So in that purpose, establishing purpose and bringing about order. Okay. this is such an individual process. You know what I'm saying? You can't I for me, I come from a nuclear family. You cannot establish order in the family if you don't establish order in the individuals in the family because of who we are. We could there's different purposes and meanings for each individual person
Yes, ma'am.
to explore their own personal views and values, their own personal goals, regardless of what was established, even in that home. That person has to establish their own goals and views and assess their own overall alignment even before they can take the spirit of that family and multiply it and create another family somewhere.
So yeah, no, I'm not in disagreement, right? Nuclear
Mhm.
family, what you just said, there's not you get no argument or pushback from me. What
Right.
happens is that what has happened is that in what you're saying, when we lose position of love,
Mhm.
when we lose um, love from within, when we
Yes.
when we don't honor self because of this thing of wanting somebody else to be accountable for something that
Yeah.
you are in control of,
Mhm.
that gets on your DNA. So now here comes the breeding part. Right now we out here on all of these things. A marriage comes after the baby. Don't tell me I can do whatever I want to do.
Mhm.
I'm not listening to you from some old ancient so and so. And while you're again, while that is happening, those that are in order, it's advancing still. While you are out of order, you're still not advancing.
Mhm.
So then when you go back and you look, because of the disorder, husband meets wife,
Mhm.
wife and husband works at becoming one from the day they get married going forward. That's work. Um, Getting tired. Oh, I'm tired. I just think that, I should be tired, that type of thing.
Mhm.
So getting tired in a marriage, and it just because, you know what, I'm just tired. I don't want to do this no more. Right?
Right.
So then again, that's back to, you have the right to do that, right? You
Mhm.
go ahead, walk away, right? But then when you go and look at these things, black woman is only married 17%. She has the highest divorce rate in the world.
Mhm.
The black male is the most incarcerated. Black boys 5 to 11, number one in suicide. Right? When you start getting into these dynamics spiritually, it comes back to the disorder.
Yeah.
It's all
Trying to create order out of disorder.
disorder. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So for us, you and I, our purpose becomes ultimately important in a way
Mhm.
that it's important to us. Like, people judge me all the time
Mhm.
because I talk about men and boys. Like, if you're on my Facebook, you're gonna hear me, you're gonna watch me. I'm gonna
Right, but
talk
that's
about,
what God's given you because that's where you are needed. Like you were saying, I mean, that's been black men have been the most emasculated human being as far as men are concerned, the whole male species.
yeah,
And to even begin to build up and be, yes, we can be fruitful, yes, we can multiply, but even in that, you know,
right.
what's happening to us? We just,
Well, and some people say being fruitful and multiply wasn't necessarily about being
mhm,
fruitful and having sex and having babies, and right.
mhm.
Some people say being fruitful and multiply was about your spirit, fulfilling,
Absolutely.
fulfilling your
Mhm,
spirit to its fullest and multiplying what God has done for you through words, deeds, and actions.
I
Um,
receive that. Yes.
right. But then when you say that, then you got to look at how we are procreating.
Mhm.
So the dynamic again comes back to right. So now, how do I depend on God? Right, because I
That part.
right that part because I made these decisions out of order.
Mhm.
So now I'm asking God to answer me out of His own order. It's amazing how you look out and you can say all these wonderful things about other cultures. See, they can do that. See, we can't. You see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
You understand? So you understand that when we say, we can, they, right? Then the comedians, they go on stage. We don't realize how dangerous this is. We go on stage
Oh
and
yeah.
we are constantly knocking ourselves down,
Mhm.
right? Where does that fit in the whole spiritual complex? And then the last part of that is with everything that's happening, you hear things like, see, that's what they want to do, right? Like, and I it blows my mind that this is a process. At the same time, you will walk in the church and you'll be praying to God the whole night. As soon as you walk out of church, or you read the word, the Bible wasn't wrong. The world reflects what the Bible talks about.
Mhm.
So when you speak on these things, why you not speaking gratitude?
Mhm.
Why you not saying, well, Lord, thank you for the janitor that opened up the gym so I can go in and shoot 300 shots. Thank you for my uncle who bought my first pair of gym shoes.
Mhm.
Thank you for my auntie who came by and made my favorite cake. Thank you for my middle school teacher who cut me so I could go and learn how to get back up from a
Mhm.
tough time and bounce back, not pacify me.
Right.
Right? Thank you. Thank you for me not taking the gift that you had serious enough, that I was arrogant enough for you to take me through this journey and to make me the man that I am today. I'm grateful for the Mr. Thorntons and the Mr. Cecils and Jim Curry who gave me a whistle to become who I am over this time. But how can you not be grateful
Mhm.
when you roll over and you got air in your lungs and you got another attempt to do what you were called to do? So um, I'm with you 100%. I really believe that addressing for us is addressing um, and putting our hands to the plow for our own culture, and it's not just about economics. It's about
Right.
exactly what you're talking about:
Mhm.
spiritual health, showing up when you're supposed to, integrity, talking, not showing up with that whole negative attitude, right? The one verse, and you have to forgive me, I don't like is life and death is in the tongue. I don't like
Mhm.
that verse.
Mhm.
I don't like it. Every time it's a cliche, you see pastors, oh, well, life and that just, I feel like you scripted me,
Mhm.
right, to a place of no return. Like it just, it's the scripture that bugs me because everybody uses it, right?
Mhm.
But the very
Yeah.
scripture before that, the very scripture before that is the fruit of the mouth. Didn't
Mhm.
give you a choice. Life or death is in the tongue. Fruit of the mouth.
Okay. Yes.
And it fills the belly. I'll
Mhm.
take that one over the life and death is in the tongue.
Mhm. Okay. I'll take that. I'll take that, because I definitely use it and believe it, that the fruit of the mouth, the fruit of the spirit,
Yeah.
bringing that place of order because, life comes to us kind of like a puzzle. Okay. We have all the pieces, we have everything we need to put it together. Okay. But it doesn't come. All we have is a picture. Okay. And we have all these pieces, and then we go about trying to create that order, trying to create that masterpiece. out of these pieces as we put them together, you know. And so um I think that's one of the reasons that the spiritual health checkup is so important, because we wrestle not against flesh and blood. We don't wrestle against each other, but we do, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
In trying to get things into order, that involves um you know putting things where they go, you know
yeah,
right.
yeah. So yeah, leadership, right? It's it's about who's leading, right?
Mhm.
Are you willing to listen?
Okay.
Um, I say this all the time. Uh, Everybody deserves a good mate. A man's job is to become a man, husband, and a father.
Mhm.
We seem to think that he's supposed to be a man at the time he's a boy, and that he should be a father before he becomes a husband. And then, therefore, when he becomes a man, the boy is still present. We believe that the girl should be a woman and forget the little girl,
Mhm.
and that she should never ever espouse to having or seeing these things. And then she puts hope and pressure on God for something that she's not
She
even
know
prepared
nothing about.
at
Okay.
all. So, and it's the same for him. So,
Mhm.
for us, our to answer our secret weapon is praying and fasting.
Okay.
The first 7 days of every month is praying and fasting, and it's a list of people, it's a list of businesses, it's a list, right? And they're on that list,
Mhm.
and we help manifest for other people
Right.
as we're going through this journey. We found a blessing in praying and fasting and helping other people. We also found in this journey where a family could be restored. So we've been restoring families for 16 years.
Amen.
Ah, so how do you do that with the principle where the man is not the man and the woman is not always mature enough to be in a relationship, but it's something in us that wants us to come together and have that. We have a certain amount of fantasy, but we don't have the practical skill
Right.
for right. And so when you look up and you see black men in other cultures, it's because when he walks through the door of the other culture, he sees what he doesn't see in his own culture, which is family,
Mm.
and he buys in.
Mhm.
And everybody thinks that it's always about the girl, but
Right.
it's about that girl's family. He walks in
Mhm.
and sees a man in charge where he has grown up and saw women in charge.
Mhm.
And so rightfully what has happened is we, and it's not just out of culture, it's in culture. We systematically look for someone who has been married, right? Who comes from a two-parent household to try to get there. Now, we have a lot of marriages that occurred underneath
Yeah.
that didn't, those things didn't occur or come to fruition because we come in the door with the idea, but not knowing the extreme amount of work. Why? Because as a child, I was given everything. And so I was not taught to earn anything. And
Mhm.
everything tells me I, me, it, right? I'm
Mhm.
supposed to be happy and you're responsible for it. Well, no, I'm not actually responsible for making you happy. You should already be happy when you come to the relationship.
Mm.
See?
Well, how many times do you find that? I
Well,
mean,
you have to you have to be the self work, as my wife would call it. You have to do the self work for you to be happy, which allows a blossom and it opens up a path where God can answer your prayers. A
mhm.
lot of times we get in the way of what God is trying to do. So,
Right.
and that is where spiritually we get off, right? And that's what early on when you was talking about taking your hand, letting go and letting God,
Right.
that's part of that process.
So, as an encourager of men and boys, wha how do you approach that? Because do you approach men and boys in the same, with the same purpose? Because, a grown man has experienced things way differently from a younger or a teenage boy.
So we found, I found over the, well, 38 years, right?
Hmm.
So I found encouragement, like, that's for everybody, right?
Hmm.
Um, but when it comes to these boys, the one thing that I realized right away is if I take a broken, beat up, don't nobody want him dad,
Hmm.
has not seen his kids, can't get to him, parental alienation, kids, all kind of stuff, right? He's getting out of prison, don't know where his kids at. If I take that dad
Hmm.
and I train him and I put him with my mentees, he gets healed because now we're pulling out of his fathering. With father men didn't know their value as fathers because the community conditioned people on not even understanding the value of a father because you're reliant on the same system that destructs to teach you, and you didn't go get the information for yourself.
Hmm.
So I can dictate to you through movies, music, through your magazines, through your books, through your soap operas. I literally have removed the black man from your mind in the process, just from those areas alone. So when you see me, you've already been conditioned and trained. I am the enemy. But realizing that the boy and that man has been looking out at everybody attacking him. So something has been happening to our males at the boy level
Hmm.
that when they become a man, you see? So what we have done, we don't let them not swag it. I tell men how important they are. I
Okay.
tell boys how important. I tell families. I tell all men.
Hmm.
I tell families. I tell women. Right?
And is that's definitely something that I believe in, in this life purpose and giving, you know, helping people to examine their spiritual health. They definitely need to hear that type of thing. They need to hear that they are important. They need to be shown, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That they are important and that there is purpose and meaning in their life. They need to be taught to self-reflect, to reflect on, not compare, because sometimes we get into trying to compare ourselves to other people, not to compare, but to um of course, let a man examine himself, explore his thoughts, explore his behavior patterns, okay? Explore his emotions, and or her, and I just say his because it's just that type of, a thing. I mean him, his, or her, you know, own thoughts and emotions. Because I think that's, one thing is getting a person to a place to a point to where that they know that their spiritual health is important because you have some people that think they're just fine, or they're so used to the toxic way, they're so used to the disorder, they're so used to the chaos, you know, that
Well, yeah, yeah,
go ahead.
yeah. Well, no, I mean that's because you turned your back on God. You gave up on God
Mhm.
because God didn't give you this magic number. God didn't give
Right.
you $1,000 when you asked. God ain't protect you from getting pregnant when you wasn't using birth control, right? God didn't. Somehow we didn't lose the child. The baby is still coming, right? Right? God didn't give you the house that you wanted. These are all the things, but it's because in that work, in that place, this is why he says, write it down, make it plain. You got to stay vigilant and you got to stay prayed up. Here's a jewel for women in relationships who might actually want to stop experimenting with sex and doing things and really want to mate, right? Because
Mhm.
if I'm talking to you, I'm telling you marriage is it, right?
Mhm.
Um Women, you have to pray for your man. You have to physically,
Mhm.
one of the most attractive things a woman can do for a man is take his hand and pray for him,
Right.
right? But you got to hear him. So when you do pray for him, he can hear you and the God in you,
Mhm.
right? We oh man, I don't believe we all over the internet because everything is dictating to us. We're not picking up books,
Mhm.
right? We letting everything dictate to us. This is how you're the consumer. Bing, here we go. We're going this dictates to you. This dictate to you. This dictates. So everything dictate to you and you feel like you free and you can do what you want to do. But again, you're in a country, in a world,
Mhm.
as a percentage of people that have the ability for there not to ever be a broken child, poor child, the whole nine.
Oh,
Right?
wow.
This is the type of talent and ability that you have as a culture. You are breaking yourself into I'm a queen, I'm a king. That's individual, right?
Mhm.
We're
Right.
constantly pushing that narrative. That was the narrative that got you in this position.
Mhm.
You can't repeat that narrative. Just like America cannot repeat the narrative of racism to save America. It's not it.
Right.
That's not how you say it. So you're not gonna say the culture with the same formality of the king and queen, and you sit up on the pedestal and call people peasants and right. That's the visual I have of a king and a queen. When you go back, is you see the king and the queens. They're not a number of them. They're not millions of them,
No, you're right. Well, there are hierarchies.
right? They're not
Mhm.
millions of them, right? So when we look at the breakdown, and people like, oh well, the nuclear family is a European thing. No, okay. I went back and looked. I went over and ventured off, and I've been watching indigenous people and all kind of. I see all this stuff. I take in a lot of information. When in Rome, you do as Romans do, right? When you're in America, you do as Americans do, right? So having a family
Mhm.
and a legacy and leaving a legacy is good to the seed.
Right.
So your parents, you, now it's you, right? Where's the legacy fall like? So for me, spiritually, coming from where I come from,
Mhm.
again, I'm grateful, but the process that we're talking about is it is going to take families. There are several things we got to get out of that's spiritually affecting us, right? My wife,
Right. And those are the things, that truly concern, because there's you can bring people. I mean, community is definitely important, but I think that and belonging to what it is you've established out here for yourself. But being it's the for me being able to connect to the community, because like you're saying, like with men and boys, they have a certain connection to the community, regardless of what it is, whether they're in the position of leadership or, whether they're workers in the building up of it's being able to connect to that community and belong to that community, you know, that um where we start to understand how even to build that, because it takes a village. Even, there's families, there's different, like I just mentioned nuclear family as an example, but there's single mothers households for whatever reason, even if you just discount divorce. There's single homes, there's single mother homes, there's single father homes, there's homes, made up of different relatives and things like that. So I think just in showing, you know, um, that community part, and also being able to serve, and contribute, I feel like those things come from that individual before they can even consider that they're about to be the head of someone's home. You know what I'm saying? Because they do come without knowledge. They do come without training, sometimes without upbringing, sometimes without, all of those perfect trappings of home. So that's to me the spiritual health part of it, kind of plugs them in. Each individual, we're talking specifically about men and boys, but each individual being able to plug in, being able to serve, being able to contribute, being able to belong is that one thing that where we may miss the mark as far as being able to connect, where we may even skip over some of those things and then just take a person, pluck them up out of the ground and immediately set them in, over a family without having made those other more crucial connections,
Right.
you know.
No, so like again, how do we make them, right? And
That's it.
then
How do we make those
how do
connections?
we make them, right?
Well,
We
to me, I think it starts with definitely with the individual, and definitely doing that. And even if you don't want to call it a spiritual health checkup, mental health, you know what I'm saying? To get individuals where they need to be mentally, to be more self-aware mentally, and so that they can see themselves in those places of service, in those places of contribution, in those places of belonging in the community. You know what I'm saying? As a
oh yeah,
whole.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's no question, right? All the spiritual thing starts individually anyway, right?
Absolutely. Well,
It,
you know what, Kevin? I appreciate you. We are almost at a whole hour. Okay. The time just goes so fast, but I really do appreciate you, and I really hope you come back. I wanted to just wrap things up here. I did get a chance to visit your website and see some of those great things that you have going on. How can someone get in contact with you?
um, well, no, I'm booking to speak to schools
Hmm.
and communities and everything. So CalvinTman .com.
Okay, there it is. I'm gonna just show this website real quick while I have it up. And if we can get out of here in under this hour, we will be good on all platforms. They don't like you to go over 60 seconds. I mean, not 60 seconds, 60 minutes. But this is just the face of your website here where people can come in and learn more about you, learn how to book you and see, what all this is about the fatherhood legacy training, your coaching and life skills for athletes, and the in school leadership development for boys, of course. And so I enjoyed perusing your website and, really do appreciate you taking the time out. I know it's a little later there than it is here. But thank you so much for coming and just, chopping it up with me and giving some fresh insight. Do you have any last words?
Yes. Thank you for having me.
Mhm.
And remember, no matter what you do, sister, no matter where you are, um, if it's just 2, 5, 7, 10,
Mhm.
tell any and everybody you know to work back toward their family.
Yes.
It's important that we get ourselves out of this thing that our family owe us something,
Mhm.
right? If family don't loan you money, you're upset.
Mhm.
Are you not family if you don't take my kids for free? Like all of these taxes
Right.
that we place on family puts us in harm again because of the disorder, puts us in harm outside of family, and we have to use better words for our family. So that's what I would ask. And anything that you see that is going down in your community, as far as boys and men, and they're looking for a speaker, call your brother.
Absolutely. I sure will. Well, thank you, and thank you all for joining us for another episode of Hot Pink Pride Media, and we will see you in the next video. Good night.
Good night.